Um, Hi, I think it's 10 to half, so I think we'll just kick it off. Welcome to this talk about creating solutions together. My name is Aleksander Lorentzen. I'm from the city of Oslo, district of Gamle Oslo. Um, a little bit like today, coming here to the NDC conference feels like walking into the lion's den. With regards to all the developers and all the hardcore full stack development that's happening around the world. But at the city of Oslo, in our districts, for the last couple of years, we've focused a lot on how to use the tools that are available to us in the form of low code and how we can combine low code with a data-driven approach in order to further develop our services that we provide for the local community and for our citizens. So just like a quick about me, I'm head of digitalization at the district of Gamle Oslo. Just to give you guys like a quick rundown of Oslo, Oslo is actually one of the fastest growing cities in Europe. We have a population about 700,000, and it just keeps increasing a lot. We describe Oslo as a city in constant growth and transformation. There's a lot of things happening in Oslo that we're not, on the surface at least, fully aware of. There's a lot of things happening, and when we look at Oslo from the outside perspective, we'll look at Oslo as one city. That's true, but it's a truth with a modification. Oslo, or the Municipality of Oslo, consists of about 50 different entities, 50 independent, or semi-independent entities that are reporting, that have their own chain of command. They have their own director, CEO at the top with their own budgets. But at the same time, they're reporting to the city council and to the political leadership of the city of Oslo. We have 15 districts, which Gamle Oslo is part of. And we also have something that's called Agency for Improvement and Development. Those are the guys that are providing the IT solutions for the city of Oslo as a whole. They are providing us the tools that we need to develop our services. And also, to make things a bit more interesting, is that we have something that's called Agency for Health. I'm just mentioning that as an example. So the Agency for Improvement and Development, they're delivering the fundamental IT services for the entire city, while, for example, the Agency for Health have the system ownership for health data. So they have their own systems that we have to interact with. And one of the things that describe Oslo best is that we have a lot of silos. There are siloed information that we are trying to break down. Just to give you guys a backdrop about the district of Old Oslo, we are the second largest district in Oslo with a population about 65,000 citizens. And we span across the islands in the Oslo Fjord to the central regions and up to Valle, Kampen, Grønland. So we have a huge variety when it comes to the citizens that live here. As mentioned, it is a city of constant growth and transformation, and there are a lot of differences. The central location of the district makes it a quite attractive place to work, to go out, to enjoy life, but it also brings with it its own set of challenges that we have to face. And diversity and variation in living conditions are what characterizes the district, and it also provides unique opportunities and challenges at the same time. And these are the issues that we want to handle. And today I'm going to talk about how we're using low code combined with data, and hopefully in the future AI, in order to solve these challenges. Some of the driving forces that we believe will affect the city and the district in the coming years are, amongst others, we are receiving more refugees due to the war in Ukraine. And this puts pressure on the services that we have to deliver. We have to relocate a lot of families, we have to integrate them, and we have to provide them good fundamental social services. The second part is that we have a large difference in living conditions. We have areas in the district where the average income is quite high, while at the other aspects of the district, district where the average income is quite low. But in general, we have the same median as other districts, such as Frogner. There we go. Yeah, perfect. But the variations that's what sets apart. We have a lot of rich citizens and we have a lot of poor citizens. Thirdly, there are high expectations. It is quite challenging to meet the ever-increasing demands from the citizens and the expectations that they have. And it is also especially challenging to provide qualified personnel when it comes to kindergarten and health services, especially health services, as when we're looking at the population prognosis for the coming years, the population above 6 to 7 years old or 70 years old is going to increase exponentially, while the population below is dipping down. So we have fewer births at the same time as we have a higher increase in the older population. And also, we are in a situation where we have to look at preventive services versus statutory services. Due to financial cuts, we have to look at what are we legally obliged to deliver towards our citizens. Do we want to cut everything to the bare bones and just deliver what is the minimum that we are legally required? Or can we take a step back and see how can we prevent our citizens ending up in a situation where they require complex and large services? So these are the four driving forces. And finally, as I was mentioned, we see an exponential increase in our elderly demographic. And this especially necessitates an expansion of specialized services. We need to think in other new ways. We need to be innovative when we are developing the services for the future, as we need to secure comprehensive and high-quality health and care services. We need to allocate resources in a meaningful way, such that the citizens that need the most get the most. And we need to prioritize the needs of the most vulnerable members of our communities. So all of these are affecting how we are developing, both when it comes to the technology aspects, but also when it comes to the social aspects. So in order to meet these challenges, in order to meet these driving forces, our districts have four strategic priorities, where work and activity is one of the most important ones, because studies show that if a person has a meaningful work and activity, that will prevent them from ending up in the system, requiring bigger increased number of services. We also need to be more preventive and focus on early intervention. We need to be ahead of the curve. We need to be able to predict where the next hotspots are going to be, what is going to happen, and we need to have the services in place to prevent those things happening. We also need to have a holistic approach to the services, because one of the big issues that we face in the public sector is that it is very siloed. You go to somewhere and you give your information, and you have to give the same information somewhere else, and those systems don't talk to each other. And we're looking at let's say we have some users that are in contact with 15 different services that need assistance from the kindergartens, they need assistance from police, child services, etc. So we have 15 institutions, 15 services providing help towards a single user, but those 15 don't talk to each other. They don't have the technical systems that can transfer data between them. So it's very siloed. And that puts pressure on the user itself. So the user, even though they are in a very, how should I put it, delicate situation, they need to keep track of everything and be the go-between all of these services. And finally, we need to build robust partnerships. In order to do those things, we need to be more user-oriented, and we have to focus on our competence. What we need of our employees today is not what we require of them tomorrow. Times are changing. And also, last but not least, we need to have more focus on our knowledge-based management towards these things. This is in Norwegian, because I didn't have the time to translate it to English, but these are the services that we provide. In the center, we have the local communities and the citizens, and we have a variety of services that we are providing towards them. It's everything from mental health to child services, to kindergartens, to how should I put it, like school health services and health station departments, home-based services, etc. So everything we do, everything we develop is geared towards the citizens and the local communities. So in order to achieve those goals, and we need to have like a solid foundation, some principles. We have some guiding principles when it comes to working with innovation development. And one of the most important ones is that we need to forge partnerships across silos, both with internal partners and external partners, in order to like develop the best solutions possible. We also need to embrace early and frequent testing. And one of the things that we've done with low code is stepping away from the long, gruesome design processes. Instead of spending like a week or 2 weeks on designing something, we just sketch it up with a pen and paper. It takes us like half an hour, and then we can implement it with the help of low code, like drag and drop, AI, then suddenly we've created an app. And then we can test it. And we also look at technology as not the means, not the end itself, but the means to an end. We're not a technology company. We're not Google. We're not Microsoft. We're not any of the big other technology companies. Our main goal is to provide the best possible services for our citizens, for our users. And we use the digital tools that we have in order to achieve that. And we also need to work on solutions that are scalable and applicable across silos, across sectors. So like one day we're working with the kindergartens in order to develop something for them. And the next day we can see that the solution that's been developed for them can be used for the home services. So it has to be scalable. And finally, we need to like be quite protective of the safety, security, and the privacy of our citizens. That's like an obligation that we have as the public sector. One of the most important concepts that we have is like something that's called like the iceberg of ignorance. It comes from like a study that was done in Japan in the 80s. It was like a study done at the car factories or car producers. And what the study showed was that the staff, the guys on the floor, they see 100% of the problems that they face because they're in the thick of it every single day. They know where the pressure points are, what's not working, what's working. But if you take a step back to the team level, team leader level, they only see like 75% of the problems because they're not hands-on. They're not in it in the same way as the staff. And if you take another step back to the managers, they only see like 10% of the problems, of the issues that's happening. And the guys at the top, or the girls at the top, they only see like 5%. Because like it has to be like a huge problem in order for it to go all the way up to the top of the food chain. So when we're working with creating these solutions, we're always focusing on the staff, those people that are hands-on, the first line out against, that are interacting with the citizens. So what we did was that we developed a concept which is called LUR in Norwegian. It sounds smart. It means smart. LUR, it stands for lean, unconventional, and rapid. And at the core of this concept is using the tools that we have control over, low code. When it comes to the lean part, we are not interested in spending 3 years, 2 years, and hundreds of millions of kroner on huge IT projects. We want to scope it down. We want to have small, scalable efforts concentrated. It doesn't have to be, we don't want it to be overcomplicated. If it's very complicated and a part of a huge user journey, then we just break it down. And we're not trying to solve like world hunger or poverty in Norway. We're trying to solve the concrete issues that our employees have. And we do this with the help of small agile teams across disciplines. And the second part is like unconventional. It might not be unconventional for the private sector or for you guys, but for public sector, it's quite unconventional to push the boundaries, to force the organization to think or to encourage the organization to adapt to the changes and to push and prod them in order for them to think differently towards traditional problems. And what we also allow is temporary deviations from standards, as long as we know what the deviations are and we accept the risk and we have a plan. So the idea and the focus is to deliver solutions quickly, test them out in a real environment, and then develop it further along. And also, the final part is like rapid. We don't want to work like several years. We just want to work with those issues like a month at the max, 2 months at the max. The record for developing like a solution from an idea to hands-on product is like 24 hours. So we had like we had a chat about over lunch that one of the front office at the district, they wanted to see some statistics about how many people are coming to drop-in meetings, because like they had a policy that if you want to meet us, you need to make an appointment. But they didn't have any statistics on how many came for drop-in meetings and why and when. So with the help of low-code, we just made a small app where the citizens just like register while you're here, and then we put this into Dataverse, into Fabric, and then create a visual in a live report in Power BI. So they could get like hands-on data on how many people are coming on drop-in. And one of the things that we strive to deliver is like, it's a concept called like small, complete, and level products. If you just Google it, there's a tons of articles on it on LinkedIn. We want to move beyond MVPs, because like we feel that MVPs they don't look good. They are not function complete. And the users, they focus on the non-important issues, like it doesn't look good, why doesn't it do this and that? So we try to scale those products down, so when we deliver a low-code solution, we want it to be small and complete, and it has to look nice. So the user can focus on the functions and give us good feedback, instead of saying like, oh, why are you using this shade of blue, and why doesn't it do this and that? So we're just trying to scale down the solution. So this is like the concept. And one of the main things is that we need to embrace failure as a catalyst for growth. Failure is good, because then we know what doesn't work. So if you fail 10 times, we know what to do on the 11th time, hopefully. But we never discard the problem itself. So we have like, we've done this concept for like 2 years now, and we've received about 162 concrete initiatives from the users out there, 162, and I think we've delivered on 68 of them. And then we have like a whole bunch that are checked out, where we tried to make something and we realized that it didn't work. But then we just stopped the process and we dropped the technology, but we didn't drop the problem. We're taking it with us until something changes, until we suddenly have the tools to handle those issues. So when it comes to like low code and the products that we're using Microsoft 365, and the reason for that is that's what the city of Oslo has a license to. So we are within the framework of what's provided by the city. So we're heavily focused on Dataverse, SharePoint, Power Automate, Power BI, Power Apps, and Teams in order to consolidate all the solutions that we make. Teams is our go-to entrance. So like, just like to show what we've made, this is something like, this is Ung Arena. I don't know if you guys know about it, but it's a low threshold service for children and youth aged between 12 to 25 across Oslo, focusing on mental health. So if you have mental health issues, Ung Arena is somewhere that you can contact. And they have like psychologists, and they have people on staff that can help you or guide you in order for you to get the best services as possible. They had like one of the issues, they changed their tracking system, so they didn't have any system to track how many users are contacting them, when, why, from where, etc. So we just made them an app that they just register when a user contacts them. They just register some essential info. And this goes into Dataverse and then is made ready for consume through Power BI. And suddenly, Ung Arena has an overview of how many users are contacting them, why are they contacting them, and when. And Ung Arena is a service that's delivered in the entire city of Oslo. So we can just go and see, okay, why are people contacting us? It says like engstelse, they're depressed. That's like the main reason they are contacting us. And we can see like how many males, how many females, how many cases the Ung Arena has taken in, and how many they've sent forward. We can also see, like, if you dive into the statistics, we can see like a lot of them come from what's called like specialist health services from hospitals, for example. They've been referred from hospitals to us. And the second most one is the Ung Arena is the first point of contact. So all of these are like useful data for when we are trying to design our services, because then we can like look into them. Why are people contacting us? Okay, it's due to depression. Okay, how many psychologists that specializes in depression do we have on staff? Okay, we don't have enough. Maybe we should do something about that. Okay, maybe we should be more proactive. Maybe we need to make a campaign about mental health, etc. So there's a lot of data points that we can use when we are designing the services. Another example is something that's called Oslo. This is also a city-wide service. It's a free low-threshold service designed to ensure children, youth, and their families receive prompt and appropriate assistance when needed. So, like, if you have family issues, if you have any issues at all, you can contact Oslo and they'll help you. And this service is delivered in all of the 15 districts. So we made this same concept as the other one for us, for our district, and then suddenly the other districts started contacting us, and now it's an Oslo-wide solution. So now I can just log on and see a live report about why are families contacting us, what kind of issues do they have, when are they contacting us, and from where. And we can combine these data points with Ung Arena. And suddenly we're starting to see a much broader picture of what's happening in Oslo as a whole. A third example that we have is that we have a lot of youth clubs in our district. And we didn't have like an overview, like how many youth are using those clubs, how many days are we open, when are they coming, from where. So we made the same thing. We made a registration app, self-check-in, that goes into Dataverse, into Fabric, and then presented in Power BI. So now we get like live updates on how many youth have used these different clubs, when, etc. And one of the fine use cases is that we noticed like some of the youth clubs, they closed quite early. They closed at like 7 p.m. And then we cross-checked that with reports from police after 7, 8 p.m. during the summer months. There was a lot of like noise complaints about this and that. And we realized that maybe there's a correlation between all these and the opening hours for the youth clubs. So we expanded the youth clubs. We introduced more fun things to do. And we increased the opening hours from like 7 p.m. till 9 p.m. And then we realized that all the incidents reported to the police, noise complaints, etc., it just went down because the youth had somewhere to be. And that's like a concrete example of how we can use easy, low-code solutions in order to tailor the services that we have. And also, like, we can see like how many visitors we had for the last 30 days from which parts of the city. And then we can just like see that when we're looking at the local communities, we can see that youths from this area are coming to our clubs, while these youths are going to another place because there's a conflict. So it gives us, as mentioned, like a broader picture of what's happening in Oslo and in our district. And what we are trying to achieve with this approach, what we are trying to achieve with low code, is that we want to be more data-driven and knowledge-based approach. We don't want to be just data-driven. We don't want to just look at the numbers, because they can be misleading. And at the same time, we don't want to be just knowledge-based. Because like when I am out there talking to the people out in the services, a lot of the arguments that I get from them is that I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for like 20 years. That's knowledge-based, but they don't have the data to back those claims up. It's up to them. So we're trying to combine the data that we have, production numbers, with the knowledge that we have from the insight that we have, in order to make, to reinvent to innovate our services. It's about harnessing insight, leverage expertise, and evaluate impact. Because, like the city of Oslo and the district, we're not Google, as mentioned. We're not Microsoft. So we can't just shut down our kindergartens for like 2 weeks because we want to do like a Google sprint. We have operations. We need to like continuously manage the daily operations. The kindergartens has to be open from 8 till 5 p.m. every single day. So, and we have to work around those. So that's why we developed the LUR concept, low code, create like tailor specific solutions for specific needs. And then we need to integrate the technology into our daily lives, into our daily workloads. That's quite crucial in order to achieve what we want to achieve. And also we need to like strategic consolidation. We have like an ecosystem which is siloed, a lot of systems that don't talk to each other. So we're trying to like move away from them and like democratize the data that we have. And we also need to explore the opportunities that presents itself with the help of these solutions. And finally, we do have major initiatives. I'm not saying that this is binary. You don't have to just focus on low code and zoom out and everything else. We are trying to combine low code, the small solutions with larger, bigger investments throughout the district. And all of this has to be based on a foundation of data and knowledge. So basically, what we want to do is that we want to move away from the traditional business intelligence, which is basically looking backwards. Like when we talk about BI, business intelligence, we want to know what happened yesterday, what happened last week, what happened last month. And then people usually want to know why. Why did we spend this much money? Why did we go over budget, under budget, etc.? Okay, that's good to know. But what we want to do is we want to take it a step further. We want to look into advanced analytics. We want to try to look into the future. What will happen tomorrow, the day after, next week, next year? And we also want to know how can we make those things happen? Or how can we make those undesirable outcomes not happen? And that's where we want to move. And what we discovered is that, okay, we have a low-code development. We've been doing that for 2 years. We're generating a lot of data, either through low-code or through the systems that we have. A lot of data, but we don't have a place to store the data, to do analysis, to extrapolate, and to investigate the data that we have. And that's where Fabric comes into picture. And I sound like a Microsoft shill, but I'm not trying to sell Microsoft. I'm just talking about the tools that we had at our disposal at the city of Oslo. And that's why we're focused on the Microsoft platform. So what we realized is that we need to combine low code with cloud scale analytics. And that's where Fabric was like a game changer for us, because it decreased the level the knowledge level in order to make use of the tools that we have. So we implemented Fabric as a proof of concept last year in May. We were part of the public preview, and we focused on the one lake aspect of it. Like we have one lake, everything is in one place. We just shove in the data that we have. And then building up on that, we used different parts of the platform. We were very focused on like the Synapse data engineering, the data science bit, and then of course like Power BI. And what we are trying to focus on now is the data activators. We want to have like real-time, real-life intelligence, what's happening, get the pulse of what's happening in the local communities, and maybe like set some triggers. If X and Y happens, this will trigger at us. So that's the approach that we did. But in order, like when we were establishing the data platform in Fabric, there were like a lot of like, how should we do it? Do we have any principles when it comes to like the technology aspect of it? And we just landed on some overarching principles for us. One of the most important was that it needs to be reliable and scalable, because like we were like the first in Oslo, in the city of Oslo, to use this kind of technology, and we don't want to make it just for us. We want it to be a solution that works for the entire city. The second was that we wanted to combine simplicity with the standards. Fabric is new, but data warehouse is not new. There are a lot of standards and best practices, best breeds related to how to do data management, data analysis, etc. So we wanted to combine those with the simplicity that we required. So we ended up with a medallion architecture, 3 layers, focusing on data quality. And then also, we needed to have like a low-code approach where possible. As mentioned, like the district, we're not a technology company. We don't have developers. Our IT department consists of 3 guys. So that's what the IT muscle that we have. And 2 of them work with directly with users, yeah. So we need to focus on low code. And then we need to focus on the current knowledge built on what we know today and not what will come tomorrow, because we notice that that's like a trend. We're always waiting for, oh, this will come in 2 months, this will come in a year. So people are on the fence. But we said just jump into it. We use what we have, the knowledge that we have, and then we'll adapt going forward. And that's what we had to do. We had to adapt to the Fabric limitations. Like one of the limitations is that they're pushing something that's called Dataflow Gen 2 as a low-code approach to integrate data into the platform. But when looking at the enterprise-wide data, that doesn't work because there are certain limitations. And then we had to go back to like old-school SQL and stuff like that in order to compensate for the limitations that were in Fabric. So the approach that we had was like first focus on our processes. What kind of processes do we have? What kind of data are we gathering? What kind of data are we producing? And then the next step was deciding on a technique. Which technique should we use? And then decide on components. I know that there are a lot of different ways to do this, but this was the approach that we did with the knowledge that we had. So one of the first things that we had to look at was we needed to understand the complexity of our data and the processes that we have in the district in the city of Oslo. So we did like, we looked at the ecosystem, what kind of data points do we have, what are we generating, how complex are those, etc. And we realized like if we set up a scale going from low complexity to high complexity, looking at integrations, data structure, size, transformations that needed to be done, and the scenarios that we had, it wasn't too complicated, you know. The main complication was the size of the data that we had. You know, we have a lot of data. Like at the Oslo Municipality, we have like 55,000 employees, the city of 700,000 citizens. So we're generating a lot of data every day. And that was like the big thing for us. And then, based on the complexity we had to look at what kind of roles do we need. And also, like, as mentioned, we're not a tech company. So we looked at, okay, we need a data engineer that can help us with the integrations, the structures, and the transformations. We needed a BI developer that could do modeling, that could handle semantic models. We needed a controller to verify the information that has the knowledge required to do so. We needed a report developer, preferably a person with domain knowledge that knows, that has a bit interest in technology, and then we have the business user. So those are like the essential roles that we identified that we need as a district. And what we also looked at, like, okay, we looked at the roles, this is what we need, and we looked at what kind of people do we have? What kind of competence do we need? So instead of having like a separate person for each of these roles, we combine them. So like we have one person that is like data engineer, the developer, and the controller. And then we have another person that is the data controller and the report developer. So we combine the different roles into one person. So yeah. And then finally, it was time to look at the architecture. How are we going to set this up? We have a lot of source data. We want to ensure that we have the right quality. And then we have to prep them for consumption through Power BI. And medallion architecture was the architecture that we landed on. And based on this, this is what we ended up with. This is like a high-level explanation. Like when we focus on the processes, it goes from like ingestion to control, cleansing, and then we have to develop aggregation, pivoting of the tables, and then making the calculations and make them ready for consume through Power BI. And we also looked at the techniques, and we also had to adapt to the limitation that was in Fabric. We wanted to, Microsoft is pushing like lake houses, that's the future, but we realized that it's not function complete. There's a lot of functions coming in the next month, in the next year. So we had to, like, for example, combine data warehouses in our environments with lake houses in the same workspace in order to get the necessary level of security and functionality. So this was like, and then when we were drawing up the architecture, we realized like one of the main issues at the city of Oslo is we're not that good with data quality. We're not that good when we ingest data. So what we did is that we split the architecture in two parts. We have a zone, which is called like open and internal zone, where we can ingest data that is open to the public, statistics and open data. And then we have another zone that is called protected zone, with like protected data. But before we could just split them into, one of the founding principles is that whenever we take in data, it doesn't matter from where, we treat it as it is protected. Even though it's data from SSB, from open source, we treat it as protected data until we have a staging area, and then we look at the data, okay, and we verify that this is open data. If it is, then we split it into the open architecture, which follows the medallion piece. If not, it goes into the protected zone. And then in the protected zone, we've split it up into like health data, which have their own workspaces, in order to ensure that we have like extra security focus on that. And then a more common, and then another area for the other types of data. So this is like the high level architecture of how we've set this up. Just to give you guys like a real life examples on how we use this, these tools when we develop services, is that like one of the examples that we have is that we want to have a knowledge-based approach to our community. As mentioned, we're generating a lot of data points, and it's not the district only. We have something that's called city message system. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. If a street light is out, you can just go into bymeldingen.no, I think it is, and just take a picture of it and then send in, like, okay, the street light is out here. And then it goes to a messaging system, and yeah. And we also have something that's called like outreach contacts. We have people on staff that are out in the local communities. They meet the youth, they talk to them, and they walk a certain certain places in the district. So we made an app where they can report, like today, I've been to this and this and this area. I've talked to this many youth. The things that we talked about were this and this. So they're generating a lot of data from there. And then we pulled in data from the social services and from open source data. And what we and all of this went into Dataverse. And what we ended up with was a Power BI report, a map of our district, color-coded. And it's like the redder it is, the more stuff is happening in those areas. And this is all made in low code. And this was like a student project. We had like 5 students. It was a summer project last year. 5 students spent 4 or 5 weeks creating this for us. So it's split into different postcodes, and then I can just click on a postal code, and then I get a zoomed-in view. So, and this is all the incidents reported in that zone. So we can see like, okay, there's like separate, which is trash, a lot of reports about trash in that area. And then we can zoom out, and I can just click on graffiti. So this is a visual representation of all the incidents related to graffiti at the District of Oslo. And we get like an overview of where are those, where is it graffiti? And this is a great example. Like if you look at this picture, what do you see? You see at Sørenga, Bjørvika, one of the most affluent and rich neighborhoods in Oslo. That's where the graffiti is. There's a lot of graffiti in those areas. Okay, so if you just follow the data, then you would focus your efforts towards those areas. But if you have the knowledge to know, that's not the truth. We have a lot of issues with graffiti at Grønland, at Tøyen. But if you look at that in this picture, you don't see any reported graffiti issues at Grønland or Tøyen, or not as many. And then you have to ask yourself, why? Why are we not getting reports of graffiti, getting reports of trash, getting reports of this and that at Grønland or Tøyen. And one of the reasons is that if you look at the population, like at Sørenga, Bjørvika, you have more wealthy native Norwegians living there. They know the rights. They know about the solutions to send in a message that this is the trash. Like here's some trash, here's some graffiti. But the people living at Grønland or Tøyen, they don't maybe know that language. They don't trust the public services. Why should we report it? Nothing happens. So there is a lot of like underlying social issues that you can't see just by looking at the data. So you need to combine the data with the knowledge-based approach. So I think this is like a great example showing that. And furthermore, like we also get like a split of the different sections in the district, and we can see like where have the outreach contacts been, how many youth have they talked to. What do they talk about? They talk about school. That's like one of the main things that they discuss. They talk about mental health. They talk about jobs. And also, like when we got like data from the social services, this is like breakdown of the district in the different areas. And we can see like in average, we have an unemployment level of 22%. We have low education at like 20%. And then we have short living time in Norway. With like 4.5%. And that's like higher than average, looking at the city. And then we can go into different sections or different parts of the district and see, okay, in these areas we have a higher population that are unemployed. And we can look, connect the dots between that and how many people are receiving welfare or other social services. So, and then we have to be very careful not to profile. You know, we have to have like a sober approach towards these things, because it's very easy to become biased and start with profiling. So that's like one example, how we use these tools towards the local community. A second example is kindergartens, because like studies show time and time again that a good childhood is the foundation of a successful adulthood. What is happening to you between the ages of 0 to 5 or 6 years is what will define you as a person growing up in your adulthood. And studies show that if you have a family that are moving from place to place, and if your family has moved more than 3 times in that area, like when you are between 0 and 5 years, the probability of you ending up not so successful is quite high, because you haven't developed the necessary social skills, you haven't developed the relations with your community, you haven't established friendships, because your family has been moving around. And it increases the probability of dropping out of school later on. So, and for the city of Oslo and for the district, it is a great responsibility to be part of this journey. The city, the municipality, are in contact with parents before the kid is born, and we follow them through each step of this journey until they finish school and go out to the real world, so to speak. So, just to put this in perspective, in Oslo we have about 688 kindergartens spread across the city. Of those 688 kindergartens, we have about 315 of them which are public kindergartens. In our district, in Gamle Oslo, we have 57 kindergartens, where 27 of them are public. So it has like a huge impact what we're doing towards kindergartens. And when we look at the complex challenges that they face a lot of those. As I mentioned previously, there's a resource disparities between areas in the city. We have frequent relocation. Families are moving more than previously. We have declining child numbers, we have issues with staff absentees due to illness, etc. We have issues with personnel retention. So there's a lot of issues going on, and we need to like get an overview of what's happening. And the question that we asked ourselves is that how can we anticipate the needs that each kindergarten will face in the near future, and how can we organize our resources better than we do today? These are like the pressing issues. We need to find out what are the needs at the specific kindergarten and how can we organize the limited resources that we have in order to help those with the most need. And then when we looked at the data, like a kindergarten manager today has to log into 15 to 20 different systems in order to get an overview of their kindergarten. And those can roughly be categorized as expertise and quality. We have facts and information. We need to know like how many children are in this kindergarten, from where, what is the breakdown of the population or of the children. And then there's like financial information. How much money do I have? Am I underspending, overspending? And then we have management and work environment. Like you're not just managing kids, you're managing the personnel. How are the personnel, are they happy? What's happening there? And then we have operations and safety. So there are like 5 big categories. And within each of these categories, we have different data points that we need to collect. And today, as the situation is, it's separated, it's in silos. So a kindergarten manager has to log into this system to get out financial information, has to log into this system to get out HR, and this to get equality. And one kindergarten manager that I talked to, he has like this black notebook where he just like jots down things that he thinks is important. So he spends a lot of time logging into different systems and just logging down. Our vision for the kindergartens is to gather, visualize, and analyze the data. And this is like my, this is made in paint by me. So this is my design process. Took me like half an hour or something. So this is what we want to do. Like as a kindergarten manager, I want to log on somewhere and get like an overview of my kindergarten. Identify some KPIs and just get an overview. What's happening here? And then I can just click in and get more information. That's what we want to achieve with the tools that we have. What we did is that there is one tool that's called Classroom Assessment Scoring System. I don't know if you have any kids in the kindergartens, but like at our district in Oslo, at least, it's an observational tool designed to monitor, to measure the quality of interaction between staff and kids. So, and it is conducted, like this observation is conducted by certified observers twice a year. They go out to a kindergarten and they observe the interaction between the adults and the kids, and they give them a score based on different factors. They do this 4 times for each department in the kindergarten, and then it just goes from there. This is how they did it. Pen and paper. So they went out with pen and paper and they jotted down notes and they gave a score, and then they went back to the office and then they put it into a scoring summary sheet. As it says, like cycle 1, 2, 3, 4. On the left column there, you have like PC, NC, TC. Those mean something like positive climate, negative climate, and they give a score for each cycle, and then they calculate the average of those cycles, and then they take that average into a formula, which you can see on the right side. Emotional support. And then just plot it down, and then they just calculate something. And it says like emotional support, 6.69. And that score correlates to something. And they took that score, put it into Excel, and someone had to make a graph. And then they opened up Word, and they had to write the report based on those scores. Then they save that Excel file, they save that Word file, and sent them by email to the kindergarten manager. And this lived in the email system, you know? So that was the case. What we did, it was also a student project. We had like 5 students. We made an app for this. We used Power Apps and just made an app where an observer can just go in and they can create a scoring sheet. They can select which kindergarten they've been to, how many cycles they've done, and then just plot the points. Like I give them this point, and then they can also write the report in the app, and then they press send. It goes to Dataverse, into Fabric, and is presented in Power BI for the kindergarten managers. So if I'm responsible for the 50 or 688 kindergartens in the city of Oslo, I now have the opportunity to log in to one place, and I can see the overall score That's the vision. This is now rolled out in our district, and we hope that the rest of the city will take this in use. So I can just log in, and I can see the score for the entire city, for all the kindergartens. And then I can just deep dive into the details. You know, this kindergarten did that, and I have access to all the reports. I can click, and I can go in and read the reports. So this gives me tools that I can use to find out where are the pressure points, and I can develop the quality in my kindergarten. So that's the second example that we have that we're working on as we speak. And the third example is when it comes to healthcare, we need to have a knowledge-based approach to high-use patients in our municipality. And we see that a lot, like first of all, we need to find out what does high usage mean. And we see that there are some users that are using like, I think they have, I think it's like 20% of the users stand for like 60 or 80% of the admissions to hospitals. So it's the same users that are getting admitted to hospital, they're getting out, they're getting readmitted, they're getting out. And we want to know why. Why is this happening? And what can we do in order to prevent that? Because like I don't want to be like a ping pong ball going from hospital and out, hospital and out. I want services that are tailored to my needs, so I don't need to be in that kind of situation. So we have like this research project with Riesenberg Hospital, and we want to know like what are the key social demographic and clinical characteristics, and which specific services are documented in the medical records of the patients, of the users. We want to know why. Is there anything that is common among these users? Can we identify that? And can we enhance or innovate or change our services to tailor to their needs? And this is like a collaborative initiative that we have. And we're looking at the, the data from last year. And we're trying to do like an impact assessment. Like, even though these are like a small percentage of the whole population, they take a lot of resources. They take a lot of time. So we need to find out why and how can we perfect the services that we have. This is also part of our strategic needs for the coming years. The financial situation in the municipalities are going down. Like we don't have as much money as we had previously. We have a lot of users. And what we noticed in the last couple of years is that at our district, at least, we have a population group that we are calling, it's not a good name, by the way. We call them younger, older. It means that they are under the age of 67. They are, for example, 30 years old, but they have the needs of an 80-year-old due to their life choices. You know, they might have issues with mental health, they might have drug issues, etc. So a young person at the age of 30 requires the same level of services as a person aged 80. And that means that you are in the system for the next 40, 50 years. And that puts a lot of pressure on the services that deliver. So we want to find out, we want to get ahead of the curve, as mentioned. We want to find out why is this happening? What can we do? Can we tailor our services in a new, better way in order for them to not be in that position, to help them? So, yeah. So these are like the solutions that we're working with the help of low-code and data-driven. And I hope this gave you guys like a quick intro to how we're trying to work with low-code and data-driven approach in order to create more innovative and better services. So thank you. I'm available after the talk if you guys have any questions or anything like that. So thank you.